On tonight's episode of the CHGO Cubs related podcast, the Cubs take 2 of 3 in the nation's capital from the Nationals. They have won 7 straight series as they head to Detroit to face MLB's best. All that and more on this episode of the CHGO Cubs podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs-related podcast driven by Toyota. Let's go places and bet 365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Use code CHGO365 at sign up. Good evening, everybody. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on Thursday, June 5th, and we are coming to you. This is our first one of the year, Brendan. We've been live every Thursday, but this is our first postgame. The Cubs win tonight in Washington, D.C., 7-1 over the Nationals, taking the series, taking 2 of 3. And as I mentioned in the cold open, Brendan, they have won 7 straight series, taking 2 out of 3 every day, a couple sweeps in there. That'll get you to where you want to be.
Exceeding our expectations. They are the best team from a record perspective in the National League. Who would have thought? You lose Shota, you lose Steele, you're not missing a beat. You have guys stepping up, Shaw stepping up, PCAs at the MVP level, beyond our expectations. I am just enjoying the ride, Corey.
It is genuinely a really fun ride. And, looking at a tweet from Cubs, media legend, Bruce Levine, and he also points out that they finish now that series with the Nationals, a stretch of 21 games against teams under 500, 16-5. That's just beautiful work, Brendan. When they were playing the Dodgers and the Padres and the Diamondbacks, and that schedule felt really relentless, we all harped on it. They got through it. I mean, they nailed that part of the schedule. But then the next part of the mission was TCB against bad teams. Don't play down to competition. Don't have those series that we look back on and go, man, like that's such a throwaway series. 16-5, man. I don't think you could ask for any more from this team.
No, absolutely not. The offense, too, top to bottom. I mean, that's the most encouraging trend. They had the best run differential. They may still have the best run differential after tonight, and they're doing it relentlessly from top to bottom, not just at the dish, on the bases. Every time there's a base runner, I feel like they're going to steal a base every single time. They're aggressive on the base paths, taking advantage of mental errors, mental gaffes from other teams. Crook Counsel said it best. If you give this offense 4 outs, they're going to score runs. Yeah. He said 2 weeks ago, the mark of a dangerous offense also is when there's a slump for 2 weeks, they can withstand those guys slumping. This is your and my offensive dream, Corey, how they're producing these runs.
Yeah, I mean, and it is a rare thing to, at least just, going back several years, to feel like, if they are within a handful of runs, I sort of expect them to come back at this point. And we saw it, even in those Rockies and Marlins series when they weren't at their absolute best. They weren't just cranking as a lineup, kind of like we saw in this finale on Thursday against the Nationals. They just needed that one reliever to come in and not have his best stuff, or to be walking guys, or to put the runners on base. And there it is. There they steal the game. And that's how it feels in a lot of these games. Like, as you said, like if you give this team a 4th out, if you give this team an opportunity, a reliever that they can put on the ropes, they're going to take it.
And if they steal outs defensively and you prolong when their starters are not at their best, looking at Colin Rea tonight, those extra 2-3 innings, it extends the bullpen. That game extends the bullpen when they go to Detroit. And so small marginal victories that even when they're blowing teams out, they're still able to keep their roster at full strength for the next game. and that rolls over, and that rolls over. And so it's those marginal victories that Craig Counsell wins, and we're seeing the tangible effects of that so early on in the season.
Yeah, so plenty to talk about on this show tonight. I know I was going to ask you to guess, but it sort of gives it away. But I'm wearing
Let's
like a
hear it.
vintage giveaway Cubs Plus Express. Remember when Chris Bryant was modeling for
Of
Express?
course.
They
I have
gave
a
this
picture in
away
front of the
in
Express.
one of those series. I don't remember if it was 15 or 16, but
I think it was
pulled
15.
this one out of the back of my closet. I have that dancing bullpen shirt in there with Carl Edwards Jr. in there somewhere too. Try to feature more of my my Cubs closet.
I mean, coincidentally, this is the best I felt offensively since that era. For real. The last 8 years, I have not felt this good about this offense as I do right now. And it's not even close.
No. Yeah, it's really a very comforting feeling and even going back to the way that they played during that era, even when they have a guy who, even like Gore
Which
the
era
other
was that?
night, like 2015 to 19 when they won the World Series in 2016.
The Cubs, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, the Chicago Cubs won the
Okay,
World Series.
sure.
But you see a matchup tomorrow, like with Skubal and best pitcher in the league or one of the best pitchers in the league. Tough matchup. Even going into it, you feel like maybe they might not hit him. Maybe it'll be tough. Of course it is, right? He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. But you do feel like this offense has the potential at the very least to make it difficult for him. And that's if they don't get to him. But they're going to make him throw pitches and hopefully get him out of the game early. And that's just not something you've seen from this offense in the last several years. Not only would they get blown out by a pitcher of that caliber, but they wouldn't make him work either. At the very least, looking at that matchup tomorrow, like you don't plan to score a ton of runs, but you know that this team is going to put up good at bats, good plate appearances, and at least try to make him work and get into that bullpen at some point. And if they can keep it close, hopefully they take advantage of that. But plenty to talk about. I want to talk about the rotation for sure. As you said, a lot of hard contact on Thursday night against Colin Rea, but the defense behind him doing a lot of good work. Some hard contact against Pomeranz in that first inning as well. But the Nationals don't score until the 9th inning there. So clean slate for Colin Rea and Drew Pomeranz to start that game. I want to talk about Cade Horton. I know you have some graphs for those of you in the live chat waiting for Brendan's graphs. We got them, folks.
A lot of graphs.
I want to talk about Cade Horton because he's obviously been on a very nice run to start his MLB career. We'll talk about the offense. I want to talk about Nico Hoerner's role on this team and how his overall game is just shining in a lineup like this. And now that they have the stars at the top, Nico in the middle of this lineup, just absolutely shining as far as what he brings to an MLB roster. And I know there are some of you probably in the chat that maybe wanted to trade him in the offseason. I don't know if you're feeling good about that now. But Brendan,
how's Bryce Miller doing for you for Seattle?
Yeah.
How's Logan Gilbert on that on that IL?
Yeah. Want to talk about Matt Shaw, talk about Kyle Tucker being back and looking healthy if we want. I kind of want to start, Brendan. Oddly enough, I want to start talking about the one loss that the Cubs took in this series. And the reason I want to talk about that is because I don't think you and I have highlighted a ton Matthew Boyd. And that was just an exceptional start from Matthew Boyd on Wednesday. He, of course, gets saddled with a much undeserved loss. But 7 1/3, 4 hits, 2 earned, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, 3.01 ERA on the year. I think I was reading he has 8 quality starts. This is a slam dunk signing thus far for Jed Hoyer. In the context of how this season has played out, if you had a healthy Justin Steele and Shota Imanaga at the top of this rotation doing what they did last year, flirting with the Cy Young conversation, at least for part of the season, the Matthew Boyd signing is an A++++.
Oh, yeah.
It's still an A+ right now. He's been great. But you brought him in to be in that middle of the rotation, shoot for the high upside that he showed in Cleveland, even with, the injuries and stuff like that. And so, of course, he's kind of being asked to pitch higher in the rotation, as a lot of these guys are. And we've talked about that. But man, Like, what a signing and what an effort Matthew Boyd is giving this team on a every fifth day basis.
68 innings pitched, 3.01 ERA, 3.47 FIP, already doubled his innings total from last season virtually. The way he's doing it too is a layering on of what he was doing successful last season with Cleveland. The change he's made is capitalizing on that slider that he had felt at times last year. The slider he threw last year was a little bit more horizontal, had a little bit more sweep to it. But if you watch Boyd with the Cubs, that slider is tight. It does not really have that much horizontal movement. That pitch now, he's thrown it twice more than he did last year. So what does that allow him to do? Well, he has a unique release point with a tailing four-seam fastball and his dominant secondary pitch in his changeup. But guess what? Now he has a slide piece that he can offer. He's a slide piece that he can offer to left-handed batters that negates potential platoon matchups that he faces. So what is the advantage of that? Well, you go one extra inning, two extra innings. That layers on keeping the bullpen fresh. To your point, yes, they lost on that middle game of the series against the Nationals, but he's able to go through the lineup multiple times. That layers on over to the finale, and that layers on over to Detroit, who has the best record in the American League. So it's how the Cubs are molding these pitchers. It's not just saying, hey, we're going to take what you have, what you did last year, and it's bringing on over to the Cubs. It's identifying this is what you do have. Let's try to execute better. And here's our resources, our coaches to do that. And they're executing really, really well, Corey. That's the trademark of the season. It's the identification of these guys, but more so the execution to bring the most out of them.
Yeah. And, again, like on Boyd, obviously you had kind of a different vision for how this rotation would be structured when you came into the season, and, injuries happen. You can't always predict them. But for Boyd to be doing this, and as you said, for the Cubs to be identifying how to get these guys to succeed in the rotation, how to get these guys in the bullpen to succeed and form into their roles, Brendan, they have the best record in the National League.
It's wild.
Like,
if you had told me,
we were going to say the same thing. Yeah.
If you had told me, you know what, Steele's out for the year, Shota's going to be out for like 2 months, I'd be like, you got to be kidding me. And then you tell me, you know what? Guess what? Tyson Miller, DFA, Merriweather, DFA, Hodge, IL, Presley, removed from closer situation. I'd be thinking, oh my God, this season's imploding. It's the complete opposite.
The complete opposite.
The complete opposite.
It's I mean, it's funny because like when they lose a game like on Wednesday, there's like a segment of like Cubs Twitter that is still just utterly miserable because they dared to lose a single game, and it's like, pull back a little bit. I mean, this is literally one of the best teams in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you want to win every single game? God bless you.
But yeah, God bless you. I think it's okay. And well, and that's the thing. Look, like, sweeps are great. And we talked about that. Like, it's sometimes easy to look at a team like the Rockies, who coming into the series against the Cubs had won, 7 games or something? Like they just recently won their 10th. And it's easy to say, like, they got to sweep. But the sweeps are difficult. Like, you get games like Wednesday against Nationals. This Nationals team is close to 500. They got some good players on that team, obviously. But
a lot of good young players. I mean, like James Wood, CJ Abrams, all lefty lineup. Very good.
Great. James Wood looks great.
What did I say?
Yeah, sometimes those games just happen. Like, you tough sledding on offense. You're up against a guy who strikes out a lot of guys. Your pitcher also doing the same thing. Somebody scratches off a run, and there you go. The Cubs wasted that opportunity early in that game. The bases loaded, and didn't get anybody across, and you lose those games. It happens. But to consistently be winning these series, finding ways, even in series where they lose the opener, Brendan, like we saw over the last weekend, like finding ways to take 2 or 3, keep that record climbing, keep gaining ground in the division when you can. Obviously, the Brewers and the Cardinals have been very hot, so it's not been a lot of gaining, but you're not doing a lot of losing when you're winning that many series. So just a really impressive run from this team, and it'll be interesting to see how they fare heading into Detroit, a team that's, was the first of 40 wins, and obviously a really tough pitching matchup on Friday. But this team has navigated a really tough early season of the schedule. We talked about starting in Japan early, then so much on the West Coast, back to Chicago, back to the West Coast, playing some of the teams coming into the year that were the favorites in the National League. And we sit here today, it's by like a half game and some percentages in the win percentage column.
Doesn't
But the
matter.
Cubs have a better record than the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have a better
That is
record
correct.
than the New York Mets. They have
Correct.
a better record than everybody else in the National League
That's very
and
true.
almost everybody in baseball. They've handled each part of the schedule, the really tough part, the supposedly really easy part, and they're just handling it in spades, man. It's tough not to be really jacked up about this team.
This team, baseball is so stupid. Like, I cannot believe they're in this situation right now. And for projecting this team, it's hard to see it change dramatically from an offensive point of view due to a lot of the numbers appear sustainable. And that's the most encouraging trend about this.
Yeah.
Let's take our ad break.
We're going to hit our ad break here. We'll be back in a second, and we will keep talking about your first place Chicago Cubs.
Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. It is your one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. Sunnyside has an expertly curated menu with over 100 strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city, in Wrigleyville, to River North, to Champaign, South Beloit, and more. If you're just starting out, Sunnyside does have expert guidance and brands we know you will love, like Good News Mindy's and Mindy's. Visit Sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions do apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 and over or Illinois medical card holders. And for existing users, use promo code CHGO50 for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item. If you've ever tried to buy a home, get a loan, or just deal with money stuff in general, you know it can be a lot. That's why we got to tell you about the Rate app. It is seriously a game changer. You can get pre-approved for a mortgage in minutes without the need to jump through a million hoops. If you're thinking about a home equity loan or a personal loan, you can secure one in under 15 days. The Rate app also helps you find the best homeowners and auto insurance based on what you actually need. The whole thing is powered by AI, so it's smart and saves you time and money. And something that is an unexpected bonus, they've added over 800 free wellness videos. It's the one app that helps both your wallet and your well-being. So download the Rate app today to get started. Enter Rate's CHGO summertime sweepstakes as well. Rate and CHGO are hooking you up with some sweet summer baseball tickets. Score 2 Rate Club tickets to the Cubs Sox Crosstown Classic game at Rate Field on Saturday, July 26th. Rate Club is an all-inclusive food and drinks. So download the Rate app today. Visit allchgo.com/rate to get signed up today. That's allchgo.com/rate. No purchase is necessary.
All right, Brendan, back with you. We have over 120 people in the live YouTube chat right now.
Look at
If you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up, that like button, and drop what you're thinking in the chat. It's fun seeing so many thoughts in the YouTube chat. I don't think you and I have had a live number that high so far this year, always playing on an off day, on a Thursday when you and I go live. But appreciate you all being here. Drop what you're thinking in the chat. I do want to talk. I want to continue talking about the pitching, but I feel like the Colin Rea conversation is fine. It's not. It's like neutral, and I want to like slightly positive. Still.
What do you mean by neutral?
Well, it's not bad. I mean, he was fine tonight, but a lot of hard contact. That's all.
Well, I think the majority of the
talking
response,
about Colin Rea, so there you go.
the majority of the responses are negatives. Neutral's putting it nicely. You're just in a good mood right now. We're getting tweets like, "Hey, he's done in the rotation. This is the regression we all knew about."
Yeah, I mean, it is something to discuss. Now, on the whole, right, like you have a guy who was supposed to be your long man out of the bullpen, who has now been pitching every 5th day for basically 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Who has a 3.6 ERA. He's 4-2 on the season. And even in the game tonight, 5 1/3, 5 hits, 1 walk, no strikeouts, no runs. A lot of hard contact, but that's why you set up your defense the way that you do. So, on the whole, you would take what Colin Rea has given you day over day. He has stepped into a role that he was not really sure what he was even going to have, I think, coming into the year. Him and Craig Counsell go way back. I think they just trust each other. And, Craig knew that if this situation arose, he could turn to Colin Rea, and Colin Rea probably knowing Counsell well enough,
He's like,
they
I
got me in the bullpen, but I'm going to
Yeah.
be throwing 90 pitches in like 3 days. So that's all worked out. I think the question here now is, how do the Cubs continue? Obviously, we see the Cubs start with an opener in Drew Pomeranz on Thursday night, and then go to Colin Rea for 5 1/3. And just what you were tweeting, you texted me verbatim, I fixed Colin Rea.
Well,
So
listen,
I'll
hold
let you
on for a
explain. Oh, am I not
second.
supposed to say that on air?
Come on.
I'll
You're
let you
drinking
explain.
too much wine over there. That's the problem.
Yeah, no beer bat tonight. I do see our good friend Cody Delmendo in the chat. No beer bat, but
Look at
I
that.
do have some red wine. So we're celebrating the first place Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
As far as Colin Rea, though, I think the question is, what are you seeing that has kind of led to some more hard contact in recent outings? And how do you think the Cubs approach this going forward? Now, caveat that with, we are already seeing rumors, however believable or not, that the Cubs may be aggressive in the starter market. They may not wait until the deadline. They may try to jump the line and make one of those moves now. Obviously, Shota is working his way back. That progress sounds good. Justin Steele is not going to come back. So some of this conversation may still be in that vein of, you may only need to get through the next several weeks, or at least, toward the end of July, when you're able to really strike at the deadline. So just give me your thoughts on kind of the back end of the Cubs rotation, especially given the, even if it's still somewhat infrequent on the whole, frequency that we're seeing them try these openers in some of these starts.
They need innings. Colin Rea will start more games.
We can't hear you, Brendan.
You don't hear me?
We cannot hear you, Brendan. So I am going to keep talking to avoid having dead air here live, which is tough because I just asked Brendan a question. But I think, again, on the whole, what you've seen from Colin Rea, you're taking every time. And he's been thrust into a role that they weren't anticipating him be in. I do understand, though, that some folks are waiting to figure out what the next step is, and seeing a start like tonight with the hard contact and wondering, is the kind of good run running out? Do they need to explore other options? But I think when you're able to get 5 1/3 effectively from Rea like that, even with the hard contact, so what? Can we hear you now?
Me, huh? You can't hear me.
Everyone else can hear Brendan. I don't know.
Everyone else can hear me. Check your headphones. I'm gonna take it away because I got the chat. The chat is screaming at you, Corey, that they can hear me. Sarah's screaming at you that they can hear me. Colin Rea. Let's talk about Colin Rea as you fix your mic. So Colin Rea, there's a discussion of whether it's regression or whether it's him pitching differently now than it was earlier on during the season. So that was a question I was interested in as well, because it's one thing to say, okay, well, he's pitching as is, which means it's naturally going to regress. That's different than saying, okay, well, he looks different now than he did 5 weeks ago. So let's look at Colin Rea. The first thing I did was I asked, find me the most salient differences in Colin Rea's portfolio, in his pitch shape, his movement, his release point, everything. And the two traits that came back up as most important in now versus a month ago were release extension and velocity. These were the two most salient traits. And you can see on the top right here is that over the last 4 weeks, Colin Rea's extension is shorter, and that corresponds to slower velocity. That corresponds to more contact, fewer whiffs, and more loud contact. So the question I have is, why is that even happening? So is that due to just the natural ebbs and flow? How meaningful is Colin Rea's subtle changes in extension, his slightly lower velocity, about 0.5 to 1 mile per hour? How meaningful is that? And I don't know the answer to it, but I do think if we're going to talk about Colin Rea, it's not necessarily fair to say it is simply regression, because that assumes static pitch shapes. It assumes that he's no different now than he was 4 weeks ago. It does not mean, though, that he deserves to stay in the rotation for the current time, especially as Ben Brown starts to pitch better. Cade Horton has been that stable cog in the past month now. However, it's going to be this who's available game. They don't have much pitching depth. That's why they signed Kenta Maeda. They don't have guys who have the track records of going at their anticipated innings pace. This would be a career max for Matthew Boyd. It'd be a career max for Ben Brown, Cade Horton, everyone involved. So whether he is removed now, Colin Rea, or if he's removed a month from now, he will be getting significant innings, and the Cubs will still be going out and trying to get some type of depth to ensure that if Boyd or someone else is not going to meet their projected innings career maxes, will they have the capacity to withstand some of those potential mishaps?
I'm just going to nod and agree because I could not hear you, but I think I'm back now.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, I do.
What
Sorry
is going
about that,
on
everybody?
over there?
I don't know. Something with my microphone. It just stopped working at a certain
As
point.
Craig Counsell will say, frankly, we need your microphone better than that. Come on.
Well, hey, I'm here now. We're doing it live. So figured it out. But yes, agreed on everything that you said about Colin Rea. Very astute points. Let's talk about Cade Horton. Let's move to Cade Horton. I think, this is one of those things. You texted me the other night, like even thinking about where he was with the injuries and thinking of last season, like to have him up here now, pitching every fifth day. The team wins basically every time he goes out there. And to see the way that he is adapting to major league life and major league hitters. And, it's always fun when you have a prospect like this who has this stuff and obviously the top prospect rankings and all that other stuff, to watch him start to start. And you kind of see him start refining what he's doing at the big league level, settling down a little bit, getting more comfortable. Like, yep, every fifth day I'm out there. I'm not, I'm used to the big stadiums. I'm used to the MLB hitters. And I think this game on Tuesday, again, another real tick in that direction of seeing how he's adjusting and coming into form as a pitcher at the MLB level. 5 1/3, 5 hits, just 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 3 Ks. He's 3-0 on the year, a 3.51 ERA. For a guy who was only drafted a couple years ago, to come up back from the injury, storm his way up and get this opportunity, I think you got to be pretty thrilled with what you're seeing from him every fifth day, Brendan.
You're underselling it, Corey. I mean,
well, that's what you're here for.
You should be ecstatic what you're seeing from Cade Horton.
Thrilled is a strong word.
I need some oomph in that voice. Is that microphone? Is that why I can't hear it? Yes. I don't have that oomph with your other mic. But let's take our first ad break or second ad break here. Let's come back around. I want to spend some time on Cade Horton and the rest of the staff because it does deserve a lot of the attention and the immediate moves.
And as we said, folks, he has, I think I saw 3 Cade
Horton. No, that was Colin Rea. That was Colin Rea. I got more.
Oh, that was Colin Rea. Sorry.
Yeah. I can make more if you want.
All right. We're at our second ad break here, and we'll be back to talk about Cade Horton.
Okay, just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, a dedicated flooring professional group who focuses on flooring every single day. We've all been to those big box stores. You wander endless aisles, and somehow you're hauling all these materials home, looking for an installer and coordinating everything yourself. Those big box stores might have a flooring department, but the person helping you with flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday and could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring. They will be with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ball game. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule that free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code CHGO. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code CHGO. Restrictions do apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. Cub fans, if you're thinking about upgrading your drive this season, Toyota's 2025 lineup is definitely worth a look. There's the RAV4. It's versatile, reliable, always ready for a little adventure. The Grand Highlander, plenty of room, super comfortable, great for families or long road trips. If you're looking for efficiency, the Corolla's got you covered. It's smart, stylish, and easy on gas. If you need something tougher, the Tacoma brings serious durability. And finally, the Camry, sleek and packed with performance. Summer starts here. From adventures to weekend escapes, our versatile lineup is ready to ride with amazing deals to match. Visit your local dealer today and find yours today. You can check out the full lineup at Toyota.com or stop by your local Chicagoland Toyota dealership. Toyota, let's go places. You can also get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts on future merch and events, plus access to our CHGO Discord lounge, where we all hang out and talk Chicago sports and so much more. So become a CHGO diehard and upgrade your fandom today. Go to allchgo.com for the latest info and how you can join the thousands of CHGO diehards in our community. We cannot wait to connect with you on an ever greater level.
Well, and Brendan, I know we talked Ben Brown recently, you and I know you're always kind of talking about Ben Brown and getting the word, just confirmation, I guess. It will be Ben Brown on Friday night in Detroit, going up against Skubal.
I mean, you kind of expected that. You kind of expected that, right? I mean, because you
just didn't know if they were going to continue with some of this opener stuff. I mean, obviously that's matchup based, but
yeah, I like it. I mean, Ben Brown, what he showed last start was his best start by far. I mean, the fastball command, the curveball to go with it, the north to south profile, that's exactly what you want to see. And to some degree, we talk about like regression for the negative in Colin Rea. The same can be applied to Ben Brown. You have regression in the positive way. But there's also a mix, too, of Ben Brown not in some weird micro type samples of just not hitting his spots and leaving too much over the middle of the plate. But if you can minimize those brief blips, whether it be the first inning or early in the game, then the natural stuff should take over. And that, for me, is why I've always been encouraged by Ben Brown. And you know what? To go against Detroit, in Detroit, that's a big vote of confidence from Kirk Counsell.
Yeah, and will be interesting to see how he fares. The Tigers do strike out at one of the higher rates in the league, obviously, despite being the best team in the league record-wise. So interesting to see how Ben Brown fares against a team like that. But we'll talk about the Detroit series later, and do want to shout out, I know the comment was just up there, but our guy Cody Del Mendo planning to do a watch along on Sunday. They'll have the post game regardless, but a watch along. And he says, hopefully the Cubs are going for a sweep or a series win. 8 straight series dubs, Brendan, including one over the Detroit Tigers at this point.
I mean, if they sweep the Tigers, look out.
Mighty nice. But let's get back to Cade Horton. I want to talk about Cade Horton and what you're seeing from Cade Horton start to start. And, tell me why. I said thrilled, and that not a strong enough word. So
it's not. It's not. When we watch pitchers or prospects in general, you're looking for success, of course, but you're looking for how they're being successful. Is it a matter of just, flukiness, randomness? Is he adapting? Is he just surviving on something unsustainable? And for Cade Horton, the last start, let's consider what he showed. He faced an all-lefty lineup. Cade Horton is described as a sweeper-first guy. Sweeper-first guys should not do well against left-handed lineups. And guess what? He did not throw basically more than 2 sweepers the entire game. He threw mostly changeups and curveballs. What does that mean? It means that in his first few months of starts, he's thrown 4 pitch types, Corey, with frequency. He's thrown a changeup in some cases 20 to 25% of the time. Curveball, a quarter of the time as well. Four-seam fastball looks great. More carry, velocity holding up into the 6th inning. And again, just to really hammer this home, he was touted as the best pitching prospect the Cubs have had in a long time because of that sweeper. And he only threw it 2 times against an all lefty lineup that's having success. And he had his best start of his career. That signals development, big time development. And just that window alone should leave you optimistic. Now, of course, does this mean, okay, Cade Horton's a starter? No, we still need the 80, 90 pitch limits. We still need that fastball command over a larger sample to really stabilize, still missing some spots. And we need to have that frequency of being comfortable with his pitch types beyond just 4 to 5 starts. If this is going to continue the next month, then yeah, then you start thinking a little bit crazy and you start really looking at those innings limits to try to get Cade until September and October.
Yeah, I mean, it was an impressive start. I mean, you and I were talking, I'm sure they said it on the broadcast, I just didn't hear it. Like, when the last time a team has trotted out a fully left-handed lineup? Not something that I remembered off the top of my head. But as you said, for Cade to navigate that, and for him and Tommy Hotovy, or, you know, him and the catcher to figure out a way to change that attack plan to better suit his ability to attack an all left-handed lineup. That's really impressive for a guy that's in his first season.
It's really impressive.
Extremely impressive.
Think about this. Justin Steele still is developing that third pitch. Ben Brown is still developing that third pitch. Cade Horton missed almost the entire year last year, comes back up and says, you know what? 3 pitches is not enough.
Senior year.
I know. And he's got 4 pitch types now. So yeah, that's why I think you were kind of underselling it. It's okay to be optimistic, right? There's still massive room for improvement. That's not the point. The point is, when your top prospect is showing 4 pitch types and using 2 that he did not use last year, that should be signs for optimism.
Yeah, fine. You don't have to convince me. I'll be more ecstatic about Cade Horton when I talk. I thought thrilled was a strong word, but apparently not enough.
Not strong
I'm
enough.
running through the streets singing the praises of Cade Horton.
You have to.
Better?
You got to scream, yeah.
Well, and you know, I don't even necessarily know that we have a segment planned on him tonight, but just because you mentioned, like, oh, your top prospect is doing this, can I interest you with your former top prospect being third in baseball in WAR? Is that also worthy of an ecstatic or higher praise word?
Ecstatic's a good word. I like it more than thrilled. You want to talk about PCA more?
I'm just, you know, sometimes I peruse the overall WAR charts, and seeing 2 Cubs in the top 14 of position players is always very exciting. That never really gets old.
And he's still doing the same thing. I mean, with Pete, you would still like to see some of the whiffs go down, but I mean, the aggression he's showing is leading to all this power output. 16 home runs, the home run in the finale against the Nationals. The defense the past 3 games has stood out. I mean, some of those plays he was making in center field, going into the wall full throttle. I mean, how can you not be impressed by Pete?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to switch. I think we've covered the parts of the rotation that I really wanted to cover tonight, and I do want to switch back to some of the offense. And I mentioned it earlier in the show. Obviously, I mean, we can talk briefly about Ian Happ. A great game for Ian Happ on Thursday. Has the big throw from the outfield. He goes 3 for 6, hits a homer, drives in 3 runs in this game. Just a really nice game for Ian Happ. And that's good to see. Obviously, a little slow coming back from the oblique injury, which is to be understood. But of course, most of Cubs Twitter did not have any patience for that. But just a really nice game from him. And overall, his numbers kind of creeping back to where you'd like them to be. Not on the whole, but that on base percentage is around 350 again. He's at like a 109 WRC plus. Not where he's been in the past few years, but he's getting there. Of course, coming back from the injury. So always love when he's locked in and doing his thing at the top of the order. We talked about it when he was out and Pete was leading off some of those games. Like, always believed that Ian is and will continue to be the best leadoff option for this team. If he can get that on base percentage to where it's been in the last couple of years, closer to 360, 370, his ability to put together those plate appearances, especially in games like you're going to have tomorrow. Happ is a great guy to set the pace against a pitcher like Skubal and see some pitches or take a walk if it's given to him. So good to see Ian Happ kind of looking like he's heating up a little bit. But the person I did want to talk about first, and we'll talk about Matt Shaw. We got plenty of people to talk about. We can talk about Michael Busch, who's putting together an incredible campaign in his second year here with the Chicago Cubs. I want to talk about Nico Hoerner, Brendan.
Let's do it.
And I'm sure are you agreeable with that?
I'm ecstatic.
Usually you're fine to talk about Nico Hoerner.
I'm
so
thrilled.
I just want to run it by you. Yeah. On the year, just looking at his numbers, 294, 340, 368, a 103 WRC plus. Obviously, he's dazzling at second base in the field. He's one of the better base runners on the team. He's got 13 stolen bases already. But I think, and we talked about this, but he's always been a good player. There's never really been any debate there on that. He's always been a good player, a quality player to have in your clubhouse and in your lineup. But when we talk so much, they need a star, they have to get a star, they need guys like Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, and in comes Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki doing his thing for another year, and of course, PCA now sort of rising above them all, right? You have them. And how great does it feel to have a player like Nico Hoerner be in this complementary role and see what he brings to this team just shine around an offense that is not requiring him to lift it up, but rather be a key cog that keeps it moving. His ability to hit with runners in scoring position, guys with 2 outs, hit situationally, put the ball in play when you just need someone to show off his elite contact skills. I feel like you are feeling the true value of what he brings to a baseball team in this lineup because of what is now around him.
Situational hitting too, or situational awareness, whatever you want to call it. His batting average with runners in scoring position, I don't know what it is after tonight's game. It was over 420 yesterday. Okay. If you plot the most clutch Cubs hitters of all time, just by using batting average with runners in scoring position, guys come up that you expect. Aramis Ramirez, clutch guy. Derek Lee, clutch guy. Guess who's there? Nico Hoerner, above 300 in his career. So it's that awareness that we talk about with Nico that makes him stand out. And it's that awareness, call it veteran savviness, whatever you want to call it, but it's that awareness that is not just Nico, but the rest of the team seems to project at times too, whether it be Dansby, whether it be PCA out Deacon guys. It's that representation that in certain situations, the intention changes. And we saw that with Nico in Washington. He had that base hit to the right side in between first base and second base. That ball was like a foot off the zone. We've seen this in Arizona last year. Ball at his head in extra innings, line drive to right field. It's that situational awareness that is a little unique. And when you have, say, Suzuki, Kyle Tucker, PCA, all performing at 380 plus weight on base average guys, batting close to 300, on pace for 40 home runs. Exactly right. When you have Nico come up with those guys on base, it's danger, man. And Nico's capitalizing on some of those underlying, I think, unique features of being situationally aware and effective to put the ball in play and get those base hits.
Yeah, and I love the way, like, even looking at a day like Thursday, the way the lineup plays out, you can feel how difficult it would be if you were a pitcher and you were trying to game plan for dealing with this lineup. You have a high OBP guy in Happ to start it off. Then you go to the 2 sluggers in Tucker and Seiya Suzuki. And then on a night like Thursday, you have Pete hitting 4th. Call him a slugger, call him a menace, call him chaos, whatever Pete is. He's hitting 4th, so he can beat you, obviously, as we've seen in 1,000 different ways. Then Dansby, as we saw, I know people like to rag on Dansby, but he had a couple sac flies in this series, was on a really good stretch. And overall, I think, with his defense, you're perfectly fine with those numbers. Michael Busch in the middle of an incredible season here so far in his second campaign, full campaign with the Cubs. And then you get to Nico Hoerner, just this elite contact guy, this clutch guy. And how often do we see Nico going up there and fouling off 5, 6, 7 pitches to put together a 9, 10 pitch at bat or plate appearance that is obviously just driving these pitchers nuts. And when we talk about getting guys out of the games early, those are the types of plate appearances that really key in those things. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm giving the credit to the wrong person, correct me, but I'm pretty sure he did that in that game against Hunter Green in Cincinnati. He had like a 12 pitch at bat. Hunter Green was rolling, and everything changed when Nico fought off like 10 or 11 pitches. It pushed his pitch count, and, you know, things obviously change from there. And you just see that. And then obviously, you know, you have the catcher, Carson Kelly, who sometimes is your cleanup hitter. We could talk about that too. And then Matt Shaw, who's developing at the bottom of the order. But you just see the diversity that this lineup brings, and the trouble with, like, you don't want to make a mistake to the big boppers in Tucker and Seiya, but Pete's going to beat you a million ways. Ian Happ will take a walk. And then you get to those 5 through 7 guys, and they're not easy to deal with in their own right.
A lot to talk about. Let's hit our final ad break here, continue this discussion. Let's take a break here from Potawatomi Casino in Milwaukee. Potawatomi, Milwaukee is your complete entertainment destination with thousands of the latest slots and table games. The action never ends. Take your pick from a huge selection of incredible restaurants and bars. Then stay in style at a luxurious hotel just steps from the Midwest's best sportsbook at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. Your win is awaiting. You know that moment, the one you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach, or your microphone just unplugged, you know? Ever had that moment, Corey? Or you're on the roof of your car at a gas station 3 states away. Well, I've been there too. But then I found Shady Rays. It changed the game. These sunglasses are made for real life, seriously good looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's a wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now I actually wear my sunglasses without fear. On hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Shout out to our friends at Potawatomi in
What did
Milwaukee.
I say?
Not that.
I'm 100% sure I said that. 100% sure.
Play the tape, Sarah. Clip that.
Potawatomi.
We'll try that again. Okay. And I just want to remind everybody, they were our hosts for our group outing in Milwaukee when the Cubs beat the Milwaukee Brewers. Had a blast at the casino, and then going to that game. Hopefully we can do some more group outings like that in the future and fly the W up north.
What can I say? I can't talk. I'm sorry.
Potawatomi. I do want to read a super chat here. I think it's our first super chat of the season, Brendan, you and I. From I'm Not Brian, says, took my son to his first of many Cubs games tonight. And then later says, had a blast. I think we've got a PCA fan for life. Love that. And I was going to say Brian, but his name says I'm not Brian. So appreciate that super chat, and glad that you were able to take your son to the game. And of course, there's nothing better. First game, flying the W. They win by 6 runs. That's a beautiful way to break into a lifelong habit of living and dying with the Chicago Cubs. So love that. Let's keep talking about the Cubs offense, Brendan. I know we were talking about Nico Hoerner, but I mean, do you want to talk about Matt Shaw? Do you want to talk about Michael Busch? Do you want to talk about Carson Kelly? I know there's a lot of chatter. Maybe let's talk about Carson Kelly, because I think there's a lot of chatter from folks kind of wondering at this point. To me, I always say this, like, Craig Counsell is not infallible. He can make mistakes. I think he's doing a masterful job with the Chicago Cubs in 2025. I think their standing in the National League and Major League Baseball is a huge credit to the decisions that he's made, the patience that he's had with some of these guys, the kind of pushing guys in certain roles, seeing what they have and adjusting things. So I trust him. If he wants to hit Carson Kelly 3rd or 4th every night, that's totally fine by me. Do you think, though, like at some point, you know, he obviously had an extremely hot start. Maybe they shouldn't be doing that. It's just a comment I see a lot.
There's injuries in the lineup right now, though, right? So you have Kyle Tucker's jammed finger. He was back in on Thursday, but missed the previous 2 games, facing a left-handed batter in the second game. Carson Kelly's performance is not going to be at the Barry Bonds level. All of those jokes, of
You
course,
told me it would be.
all of those jokes were in jest. I mean, for the first, what was it, 2 months, his expected weighted on base average was over 400.
Yeah.
If you thought you were getting that from a catcher, you're more optimistic than even the most optimistic fans. But even within the last 3 weeks, in those 100 plate appearance samples, he's still performing and hitting the ball at a rate that's above league average. So he's still making above league average exit velo contact in the past 3 weeks, still taking his pitches. So a lot of the similar traits, that a lot of the fundamental traits he showed early on have carried over. It's a matter of what that translates to over a larger sample. And he does perform better against left-handed bats. So when we start thinking about decisions that are good and decisions that are bad, that's a black and white situation. It's not black and white. When we look at Carson Kelly's numbers against lefties, it overlaps a lot of the current guys in the lineup. And so then you start thinking about the context of these current hitters. Ian Happ was struggling.
Yeah.
Kyle Tucker was injured. PCA did cool off a little bit, and you don't want to face a lefty, right? So of course, when you start looking at overlapping numbers in the sample, batting Carson Kelly in the middle of the order makes sense. It's not a great decision. Oh, this is an obvious decision. It's one that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then Craig, to his credit, adjust accordingly at the appropriate pace, I believe. And he has been showing that throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, and look, like a 730 OPS in his last 30 games for Carson Kelly. The numbers in the 15-game sample and 7-game sample, much worse than that. They're not good, right? Like, there's no hiding that. But he has done a good job consistently of hitting the ball hard. And I think the thing, as far as him hitting in the middle of the order, the heart of the order, when they're facing a lefty, it's this balance, right, Brendan? Because as you mentioned, like, they're clearly figuring out how they want to manage PCA and Bush playing against lefties at all, but where PCA hits against lefties and how much they kind of want to like be aggressive with that. Like, let's get you guys comfortable, go out there. If you go for 4, who cares, right? But I think the reason I brought this question up is I just see it a lot when they post the lineup and Kelly's hitting 3 or 4. A lot of people are like, hey, his hot streak was a month ago. Enough of this. The thing about that is, though,
who do you want to bat cleanup? Who do you want to bat?
And that's what I'm getting to. When you look at this, right, like PCA is basically the best hitter on the planet against righties. He's got a 170 WRC plus against righties, a 413 weighted on base average, 62 WRC plus, and a 255 weighted on base average against lefties. Michael Bush, 169 WRC plus against righties, 412 weighted on base average, 47 WRC plus, and a 233 weighted on base average against lefties. Okay. Again, PCA is 23 years old and still developing, lefty on lefty, one of the hardest things to do for a hitter. And you got to give him time to develop that if it's a skill that he develops into. Michael Bush, everyone's yelling about this every day. Should they play Justin Turner, who doesn't look very good? Should they play Michael Bush, who doesn't have a good track record against lefties, and see if they can kind of get him to develop it? It's a tough call. So that's I think where that situation comes from. Craig doesn't want PCA to feel that pressure against the lefties higher in the order, and the numbers back that up so far. Will they for the rest of his career? I don't know. He's 23 years old and he's on a rocket to the moon. Like, I expect him to eventually be hitting everybody and doing cartwheels as he's running to first base, but that isn't happening right now. Michael Bush, kind of same thing. Like, the results aren't there against lefties, right? He's shown some, like, over the recent stretch, but, like, you know, tough game for him against Mackenzie Gore. And when you're going forward, it against righties, no brainer. Those are your 4 or 5 hitters or your 3, 4 hitters, however you're drawing up the lineup. Against lefties, if you're Craig Counsell, it's not as clear of a thing. And I think he's well aware. I don't think Craig Counsell would look you in the eye and be like, no, I expect Carson Kelly to get back to that 2,000 OPS he had, you know, for the first month of the season. And he should be hitting at least a cycle a month for us like he did early in the year. I think he knows that was obviously a really hot stretch that wasn't going to continue. But I think they like the batted ball profile, and they'd rather have a guy who can pop one off a lefty in that middle of the order behind Seiya and Kyle Tucker than guys who are developing, let's call it that, against left-handed pitching.
And also, too, these are those situations that kind of just work itself out. I mean, early on in the year, it was Justin Turner getting those middle of the order at bats as
Right.
a
And they moved
platoon
on from it.
specialist.
Yeah.
Right. They moved him down and he actually got a few plate appearances taken away. So it's an ebb and flow situation. It's middle of June, So these decisions will work itself out, whether it be near the trade deadline, if you want to acquire another bat and DFA Turner, although Turner has looked a little better recently, but I don't really care about Kelly batting cleanup. Like, I just don't care.
Look, on the whole, and even this includes Reese McGuire now too, like the Cubs catching tandem, be it Kelly and Amaya or now Kelly and Reese McGuire, they've been great. They've been contributing in a way that you really best case scenario beyond even for a catching tandem, especially compared to what we've seen in other years. I want to
Nico
talk about
I don't care.
The cleanup thing and that whole thing, because that question does come up. But on the whole, these guys have been great. And the work that they're getting from the catching position defensively and offensively has been one of the keys. When you look at how do you lose your top two pitchers, how do you deal with some of the injuries you've had, a shuffling bullpen, as you mentioned, guys you expected to be keys in your bullpen getting DFA'd, how do you end up in a spot where you are one of the best teams in baseball? And it's little things like that. Your catching tandem killing it. No matter who you're putting out there, they're contributing, they're calling good games, they're throwing runners out. They've been great. So I just wanted to ask that question because I do see it come up when they post the lineup and kind of at least a little way to touch on some of the left-handed issues, that we see in the lineup and kind of the shuffling. So I mean, we can talk about Michael Busch too, as well. I remain just overjoyed, with what we're seeing from him. And it was one of those things where, to me, Brendan, I know that a lot of people are like, oh, well, Zaire Hope is this big prospect now that he's with the Dodgers, and Jackson Ferris, had a lot of potential, et cetera, et cetera. This is one of those deals. I'm basically ready to call this a W for Jed Hoyer, and I don't really care how those guys develop. I think that sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle of just how valuable what they've gotten from Michael Busch is at a position that they had no answer, right? You can say, Matt Mervis, he just got DFA'd by the Marlins, and it did not work when they tried that at the MLB level here. They didn't have the prospects coming up. They did not have an answer at that position. Jed took a swing, and in his first year, he gets a 2.3 WAR, 119 WRC plus out of Michael Busch in 567 plate appearances. So far in 2025, a 151 WRC plus in 214 plate appearances. That is a massive thing for not just the 2024 and 2025 Cubs, but the franchise. If you found a guy who can play first base and hit at this level, that's what you make those trades for. And they're in a competitive cycle. They needed a first baseman. And look, if Zaire Hope goes on to be a perennial all-star and a Dodger Hall of Famer, sure, you can look back and regret that, I suppose. But Jed took a swing that he needed to make. And Michael Busch has been a top 7 first baseman in baseball in overall value since he started with the Cubs in 2024. That is a massive W for Jed Hoyer. I don't really care what those prospects go on to do.
He's an interesting bat. In some respect, he reminds me of Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger is the max ceiling for him is much higher than Busch, than it ever will be. But the similarities that their bat planes, I think, may lend to some of those base hits that you typically don't see. So Matt Busch, just for reference, his bat speed is slower than Major League average, but he barrels up the ball much better than league average, 85th percentile. His launch angle sweet spots to 90th percentile, and that leads to a lot of balls in the air. It leads to a lot of base hits. If you look at his spray chart, Corey, down that right field line. So he has 2 triples down the right field line. He has 2 doubles all the way down the right field line. He's a pulled home run way down the right field line. Then there's some instances where he kind of just like bloops some out to center field to left field. And it's that bat plane that just reminds me of what we saw from Cody Bellinger at times.
Brendan, let me jump in here. If you were watching us on Fast, on Roku, or any of those devices, we are going to be going along. It's a Brendan and Corey show. So you can catch us on YouTube, but that will be it for us if you're watching on the Fast programs. Hop over to the CHGO Cubs YouTube, and we will continue here in overtime.
It just leaves me encouraged that as time goes on, this batted ball profile is sustainable. There was a point in May last year where he's, striking out. Some of the underlying metrics come out. It's like, I don't know if Bush is like a long-term solution. And then he got through that initial hiccup after that 5 home run stretch last April and May. And he finished September so much stronger than I expected and carried a lot of those trends into this year. For Bush, it's just what the chat has said, just getting more plate appearances against left-handed batters. That way he becomes that everyday guy. But in 757 plate appearances in his career, he has 32 home runs, and he's batting .247 with an OBP of .336, and that includes his first rookie campaign in LA, where he had 72 at-bats and batted .167. So really, in under 700 plate appearances, he has over 30 home runs, Corey. That's really impressive to see for those two guys you gave up in Zaire Hope and Jackson Ferris.
Yeah, and look, like I said he, 7th overall in value since 2024. If you're looking at just WRC plus for 2025, 5th best hitting qualified first baseman in baseball.
The pushback's going to be the lefty stuff, right? Because you see the numbers, it's like, oh, well, he's a platoon guy. So like, who cares? If he really wants to be that valuable guy, then he's going to have to start facing left-handed batters. And quite frankly, I sort of agree with that. But I do think over time, he can adapt to that as well. Not every single hitter is going to be this finished product. We saw Rizzo go through this at several stages of his young career. We saw Chris Bryant go through this at his young career as well. Chris Bryant got called up in 2015. He had a contact rate of 66%. The next year, it was better than league average, around 77%. Won the MVP. But in the plate appearance sample in 2015 to early 2016 matches what we see from Michael Bush. And so we're assuming that there's no more improvements from Bush. I'm no longer making those assumptions about any hitter. So I'm leaving the window open that as he gets more opportunities, then the consistent everyday performance you want to see is possible to come.
Yeah. Love it. And, I think it's also, too, one thing to point out, he made that they call in an error on the play in the Cade Horton start. I think it's like, that's exciting, too, that we get to the point where, like, when I watch that play back, like, to be at the point where you're like, Bush should have had that. Like, when he first came up, I don't think we would have thought that. I think it was an adventure over there on defense. Now, I think for him to have done the work and gotten solid enough that we watch a play like that and we're like, he should have had that. He normally has that. Like, that's a testament to where he's gotten on the defensive perspective as well. I do want to point out, too, one thing I do love about the live chat is the celebration when the Cardinals lose. So the Cardinals played a doubleheader today. So they did win earlier in the day, but they did just lose as we're doing this live to the Royals in the second game of that doubleheader. So the Cubs have a 5-game lead in the National League Central. I don't think even in my wildest dreams, Brendan, had you told me like our first show in June, the Cubs would be the best team in the National League and have a 5-game lead in the National League Central.
And Matt Shaw turned it around, batting almost .250 now since coming back up. PCA at an MVP level. This is what dreams are made of, Corey. You got to savor these victories.
And Kyle Tucker doing exactly what we all dreamed he was going to do. He's great.
Right.
That's
perfect. Right. It's the best case scenario. What you're saying right now, realistically, right? And it's crazy that is happening so soon. I mean, I know a lot of people want to talk about Matt Shaw. I don't know if you want to talk about him right now.
Sure. We're in overtime now.
We're in overtime.
Yeah.
The most impressive trait for Matt Shaw is the defense for me.
Yeah.
Dude.
It's really impressive.
What he's been making over the past 10 games, unbelievable. Laterally to his right, laterally to his left, balls in, the arm strength. It reminds me of the discussion we had when Nico moved to shortstop, when we were questioning, could he even have the arm strength to play the position? And Nico goes to shortstop, like basically was a Gold Glove candidate that year. I think Dansby won the Gold Glove that year, Gold Glove middle infielders. But Shaw's reminded me of that as well. It's unbelievable what he's been doing defensively.
Yeah, I mean, he's really made some astounding plays. And, you look overall from the offensive perspective, 21% K rate, 11% walk rate, 95 WRC plus. Like, he's almost at league average.
Which is nuts.
For a rookie of his age who has advanced through the system so quickly. I know
at
that
a new position.
Now at this point, right, like PCA is setting a standard of guys. Like, we just want to see everybody explode into
just want to see them win MVP the first year.
New face of baseball. Yeah. But for Matt Shaw to be doing all of this with his quick trajectory, also 23 years old, like limited time in the minors, and even in this season to have the mental, call it fortitude, to break camp with the team, struggle, be sent down, get the opportunity back, and seemingly really like lock it in this second stint. That takes a lot. And that is sort of, it's impressive for a 23-year-old to be able to handle the ups and downs of the major league season like that. And for him to be doing this in the bottom of your order, if he's giving you close to league average offensive production with what he has been showing you on defense.
Better than what I wanted. Yeah. That's better than what I had hoped for. I just wanted bear with me, slightly below league average value from Matt Shaw. That's what I wanted. And at this pace, we're getting better than league average offense since he's returned, and well better than league average defensive production. So he's on pace to be an above average player at third base. Then you match that with PCA. You match that with Michael Busch. All those guys have 5+ years of team control, Corey. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Because eventually, Ian Happ's contract will run out. Seiya Suzuki will run out 2 more years. Nico, just another 1.5 years, 2 years. They're going to have these replacement opportunities. And if you have center field, third base, and first base locked up with pre-ARB guys or guys entering their first year in ARB, that is unbelievably flexible for this front office to navigate.
Yeah. Well, and look, we talk about it like if you want them to extend Kyle Tucker, if you want them to...
And you need these pre-ARB guys.
You need these guys to work out like this. You need to have answers at some of these positions. And this is what sort of makes that all spin in a way. Like, you have to have some of those things locked up. And of course, like, we do this all the time, but it is really easy always just to compare things to 2016, team who wins the World Series, the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah,
they win Game 7 against Cleveland to win the World Series.
Yep.
The reason that team, it's the same owner. So if you're sitting here wondering like what Tom thinks about spending and all this other, it's the same situation, right? Like, the reason they're able to spend over the top to get a guy like John Lester or the top free agent at the time, Jason Hayward, or to bring in Ben Zobrist to be that super utility man that ends up being the World Series MVP when you break a 108-year drought, is because you had, and in some cases it's relatively, but like cost-controlled guys all over the diamond. And it allows you to say, okay, we have a rookie who's going to win Rookie of the Year, and then next year he's going to win the MVP, and we're not paying him at that value, right? That's how we can go spend on Ben Zobrist. That's how we can go spend. You had Rizzo on a team-friendly deal, Baez, Russell, Schwarbs, etc., like Jorge Soler. Like, that's the reason you're able, even in 2016 in that offseason, that's why they're able to say, you know what, bring Fowler back. Give him the money, bring him back. We're going to throw him back out here. He's
Or
our
you know
leadoff
what?
hitter.
Trade Soler for Wade Davis and have that 2017
Yeah.
run.
So again, the organization's in a different spot. It's never apples to apples. It's a different league. Baseball is different. Front offices are different. Everything is different. Baseball's a game that changes very quickly. But having those guys who can perform and hold down positions, be it at a star level or even a, slightly above league average level, that's how this all works. If you don't have an owner that is just tossing money, right? Like, this is how it's all going to work. You need these guys to succeed and get those opportunities. So it's really nice to see what Matt Shaw has been doing since he's come back. I do, and maybe we can wrap up after this, but I do want to read and break down, because I know, like, I feel like when I read the tweet, I was like, Brendan should just answer this, like, and just answer him. Justin Steele, who, if you're not following him when he's live tweeting the games, I know sometimes he's been in the dugout, but like, obviously they're on the road, and so he's live tweeting the game. Highly entertaining and insightful. He's tossing out some stuff. I know he was during Boyd's start, like breaking down some of the pitches and stuff like that. It's fun to read. But during the game yesterday, on Wednesday, he tweeted, "Is this Cubs team the best base running team baseball has ever seen? Not just swiping of the bags, the double plays that aren't being turned against us because of how we are running, the taking of the extra bag on singles and turning them into doubles, the whole 9 yards. It's been one of my favorite parts to watch this year with this Cubs team." And then in parentheses, he says, "This claim has zero analytical backing, straight up observation from my eyeballs." And then he finished by saying, "Also, season ends today. PCA is your MVP. Get over it." Amen. I mean, what a tweet, right? Like, and I read that and I was like, well, I'm in love with the 2025 Chicago Cubs. There's just no other way to spin this. Ending a tweet about base running and like winning on the margins with, "Oh, by the way, PCA is your MVP. Get over it." Unbelievable stuff from Justin Steele. I mean, just unbelievable stuff. He's right, by the way.
He is.
But even when he said that, he said zero analytical backing, but I think it does have analytical backing.
It sure does.
He may have not looked it up. He's just right from his eyeballs. That maybe he, would be a good scout coming down the road because he's taking in the game.
You don't think Steele crunches numbers on his computer?
But the numbers do. I don't know if I bet that Justin Steele is a Fangraphs man, but maybe we can ask him.
Okay.
Yeah. But like the main point being, he's right. And we see this all the time. It started, I think it was one of those Arizona games where they tried to turn the double play late in the game with Pete running to second base, and he was safe at second, and it kept the inning going and like really screwed up that whole thing. He said, "Let the fucking go." Yes. Right. I think you're allowed to say that. I don't know if you have to self-censor that.
I think I accidentally said it too. It is what it is.
Sarah will tell us. But
Sorry.
like,
I'm
you
messing
do
up
see
today.
that every day. You see it in every single game. And some of the stuff is difficult to quantify. Like, I think part of the reason that Steele tweeted that was like PCA deking the third baseman, kind of goading him into looking at him to let the runner be safe at first, and then he just slides back at third. Those plays are not really something you can quantify, like how often that's happening. But as far as this team taking first to thirds and turning singles into doubles and things like that, scoring on balls that maybe other teams wouldn't score on, again, the analytics are going to back that up. And I think you had some, I know you can read, but you just see that every day. I mean, we've watched really good base runners in even just the time you and I have been covering this team. I mean, Chris Bryant, one of the best base runners I think we've ever seen. Javi Baez, great in a different way, an insane kind of way, a special way. And I think it when you see it. And like, you watch this team on a nightly basis, and they are constantly executing on those margins of going first to third, scoring from second on singles, taking those extra bases on balls. They hit a soft liner in the gap, left center or right center. They're getting to second on those balls. They're forcing the issue on those balls. And Justin Steele said, not just stealing of the bag, but we also see some of those games where it is green light go for this offense. Everybody in the lineup basically is trying to steal a base. I mean, you've got so many guys that are in the double digits of stolen bases on this team. And it's a huge part of why this offense has been so good. Before you jump in here, I did laugh. Mac in the YouTube chat says Steele prefers B War. We're an F War family. You guys know that. But I do like the idea that Justin Steele does like advanced analytics, but he
likes my graphs.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He likes my graphs. He's right, though. The number of successful attempts, if you look at how many attempts that Cubs base runners try to get that extra base when they get a base hit, they are in the 90th percentile across the board. So PCA, number 1. So PCA leads the league on trying to get the extra base on a base hit. Behind Pete at number 1 is 14th with Seiya. Behind Seiya is Nico at 17. Behind 17 is Happ at 18. Behind Happ is Bush at 32. And those guys are in the top 90th percentile from over 230 qualified base runners. But it's not the attempts, it's the execution. That's why going into today, they are almost tied with Milwaukee in base running value. We'll see how that ends up after the game today. But it's the execution of the marginal attempts that's leading to a team-wide top base running value. And in some cases, individual performance is carrying all of this. I mean, to have PCA attempting to get the most extra base hits or extra bags makes total sense. So those first base coaching attempts, third base coaching attempts, those guys are, I think, one of the most influential coaching tandems in the league with Jose and Quentin. So for me, it's hitting the margins in every single category: defensively, offensively, slug, base running. And from like a pure baseball aesthetic perspective, I love the base running. I love the defense too, but I love the base running when they're stealing every time they get on base, when they're being aggressive, but being aggressive in a smart way. It's so fun to watch.
Well, and we talked about it too. Like, there's a reason that, you know, we and other folks I know use that word over and over and over the last few years. And there were seasons where they were bad on the margins. And when you talk about even thinking about a game going into this series against School on Friday night in Detroit, the way that you, if this were a World Series game, it would have to be if they're playing Detroit, like the way you would game plan to win that would not necessarily be like, oh yeah, Seiya and Pete and Kyle Tucker, they'll just rip a couple dingers and, you know, we're out of here. They might, right? Like that'd be great. It's a lot of fun when they do. And they do it a lot. But the way you would game plan to win that is get your hits, take those extra bases if they're available, and take away as many hits from the other team as you possibly can.
And they start
that's what this team does.
Yeah. They start piling up.
Yeah.
When they have the athletic ability to match that aggressiveness, that baseball, call it intellect, if you will, it matters. Look at the World Series. You have Chris Bryant going first to third like crazy. Yep. You have Chris Bryant scoring from first base on a Rizzo double in the right field line. Yep. You have Chris Bryant scoring on a sac fly to like shortstop, basically. You have
Amora's tag up, of course.
Amora's tag up, you know, Cubs legend Alberto Amora. Then you have Javi Baez stealing home against the Dodgers in the NLCS. Was it the first game? I believe it was. Those actions matter. And we didn't see a lot of that from 2019 on. And we saw a lot of like, it was weird.
In some of the years, they were one of the worst base running teams in the league.
You know, it was weird. Like for 2 years, they always went home on ground balls.
Contact play. Drives me nuts. It's you know, the things that bother me in baseball, non-shutdown innings. I know our guy Cody Memendo, if he's still here, feels that same way. I hate the contact play, dude.
I understand why they're thinking that. It's like, all right, well, get in a rundown if they throw it home and get the guy to second base. I kind of get that, but we're not seeing that anymore. Yeah. So clearly the percentages have changed. Yeah. And so the strategy has changed accordingly. And that's what I appreciate the most about this base running staff.
I mean, look, in the playoffs and in big games, you got to hit, you got to pitch, of course, right? Like, but if you can play tight defense and take away as we always, it's the en vogue thing. Like if you're catching balls that have a 10% catch probability on a regular basis and stealing those doubles, stealing those singles, things like that, and you are taking those extra bases, and if it's your one opportunity to score and you're able to take those extra bases and turn it into a run, right? And we see this Cubs team do that all the time. That's how you win those close games. That's how you win those tight games. That's how you beat really good pitchers on nights where the hits aren't coming, the dingers aren't there. You have to play better, clean baseball than the other team. And this team looks really well suited to do that. And honestly, the game on Thursday was a good showcase of that. Obviously, the Nationals are not a team you expect to face in the playoffs or the World Series, but they got some good hitters, and you watched it. Two of your outfielders throwing guys out from the outfielder. PCA, Kyle Tucker, both running down balls in the gap. Ian Happ doing it too. Dansby Swanson making some sweet plays at shortstop. Like, these are the things we know that this team can mash. We've seen it. Like, the offensive numbers back that up. That's there. But sometimes it's not going to be there. And you have to do these other things. And in years past, this team just was not good at these little things. The 2025 Chicago Cubs are different. They are really good at a lot of these little things.
Is this the most optimistic episode we've had in 8 years? Honestly,
I don't know how it wouldn't be. I mean, this is the best place they've been in the last 8 years.
I bet some people are listening to us like, wow, these guys are really optimistic. These guys need to
I think we're usually quite fair and realistic. But
I mean, I think it makes sense to be a little optimistic about the best team with the best record in the National League right now.
I think you're allowed to get a little carried away.
A little bit. A little bit.
And look, like, you're seeing the rumors. I don't know what they're going to do at the deadline. I don't know how they're going to supplement things, but you're already seeing that they may try to attack the starting pitching market.
Yeah, like, Kevin Gossman, come on over.
They know. And there's rumblings, maybe Jed, is he going to get a contract, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot that this organization has to figure out.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I bring that up is, like, at this current moment, you have a first place team. You have the best team in the National League. You have a 5-game lead in the division. You have a president who does not have a contract, and you have a star right fielder who doesn't have one either.
They'll figure it out.
No. This is all still positive.
Okay.
I'm saying, like, I don't necessarily think they're going to push everything in and sell out for 2025, but this is a really good opportunity. And everybody involved is likely looking at this going, this team can win a World Series. They are in a position, they can win the division, they can make the playoffs. We got to give this team what it needs and give this a real shot.
It almost doesn't feel real. Like, I know it, like, mentally it's real. Like, they have a legitimate shot, but I'm so surprised that we're talking about this team in that light. I am. They entered the year as an 84 to 91 win team. That was a range. And right now, they're on pace to win 102 games with multiple MVP candidates and emerging top prospects. I am floored that this is our reality. And when you say World Series contention selling out, you are absolutely right. I just can't, it's not soaking in for me.
Yeah. Hey, we deserve it though. Everybody in the YouTube chat, you all deserve it. Our guy, Cody, you deserve it. Let's see what they do. But it's a fun place to be in. So I think we'll leave you guys with that. It's going to be a fun series. I think it was our friend in YouTube chat, regular W Collins, saying, I know they announced, like, sounds like a complete sellout, standing room only for these 3 games in Detroit. I think they were expecting, something like well over 100-something thousand people there this weekend. So it's going to be a fun environment. That's a Detroit team that,
too, with Detroit. He's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Detroit team that, has been on the come up, but has not been in this position, since the Justin Verlander sort of era. And, to be welcoming in, obviously, Cubs fans travel better than anybody else and are louder than anybody else. So it should be a really fun environment. And,
can I be negative for a second?
Yes.
There's part of me that's, like, scared that Javi's going to do something to the Cubs. Like, it just, that narrative, I just know that narrative's going to come back. And I hope it's not like in a playoff situation, because you know what that means and everything.
Yeah.
But he's been, like, what,
do
over
the Cubs
300?
have any former Tigers? mean, it would have been like Gage Workman.
Carson Kelly. We have Carson Kelly, former Tiger.
Not really the same significance of Javi to the Cubs, but yeah. Well, we'll see. Listen, I love Javi, and I'm glad that he's not.
But I can see it now. He like steals second base, does a swim move, starts going like this. I'm like, oh my God, can't do this right now.
Listen, we all loved and enjoyed and thrived really on Javi being the bane of other people's existence for several years. If we got to eat it, we got to eat it.
We got to eat it.
And you know why we're going to eat it, Brendan?
Yeah.
Because Javier Baez was a key part, NLCS MVP when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. Flags 5 forever, El Mago forever, 2025 Chicago
Who
Cubs
is he
forever.
co-MVP with?
John Lester.
John Lester? World Series champion, John Lester?
Multi-time World Series champion.
Look out. Okay.
All right. So as a reminder, Cody and the boys, sounds like they're planning to do a watch along on Sunday. Keep your eyes on his social feed and the CHGO Cubs social feed for the official links and announcement there. But either way, they'll have the post game after the Cubs wrap up with the Tigers. World Series preview, Brendan? I don't know. Could be. Right now, if you're looking at some odds, like it's not crazy.
I know.
So, I'm all for it. I could drive up there, stop in Ann Arbor, go to Zingerman's Deli, get a Reuben.
Okay.
Head to the World Series. I got it all planned out.
You're getting carried away.
I've witnessed a World Series been won in that ballpark. I watched the Giants win the World Series there in 20.
Oh, I didn't know that.
14.
Yeah.
Whichever one Sergio Romo gets Miguel Cabrera looking, I was at that game.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
I was in school.
Cool.
So anyway, I digress. Keep your eye on Cody and the boys for Sunday to wrap up the Detroit series. Brendan and I appreciate you joining us. Want to give a shout out to our wonderful producer, Sarah, for indulging Brendan and I for 90 minutes. This is what happens when the Cubs are good, folks. But make sure you show some support for Sarah's work here by hitting the like button, making sure you're subscribed to the CHGO Cubs exclusive YouTube page. Check out all the written work at allchgo.com. Brendan and I will be back with you again next Thursday. The Chicago Cubs are in first place by 5 games and one of the best teams in baseball. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.